the first thing I would like to follow up on with you, and I found this point very interesting, and I know our community and audience is very interested in that. And I felt the same. That's why I want to follow up on that. Is you mentioned sometimes the gap you feel when you're in the policy making and you're trying to change all of that, and you don't necessarily see how much you can have an impact because you're in there. But afterward, you see when you're in the industry how much things can be different, right? And
Yes.
I see there is very often a disconnect, right, between the policymakers and the perception that the industry has of those policymakers and how it can change. So, um,
Yeah.
can you give us an example of, for Lufthansa Industry Solution, one of the measure that maybe has been put in place or is going to be transformed now that will really help you? I don't want to, I don't know if you have an example ready, but one of the points you mentioned is youth and skills. And I remember at the time, back when I was working in Albania, there was a lot of discussion about vocational training of developers, trying to bring this new economy into life. Is there something from the policy side that you already see as an impact, especially to reach this goal of 10,000 developers in the IT industry?
Yes. Yes, thank you for this question. Just to go back to the point I made in the beginning. Policy was focusing on fiscal incentives for the software development industry. And this created an attractive environment for foreign investors to set up business in Albania. Back at that time, I was using in my sales pitch towards potential foreign direct investors that Albania was a very attractive place to do business because the government had at the time facilitated through deregulation and digitalization of most of its services. Setting up a business was getting more and more easy, finding a place to do your business. So a lot of places to rent and also with economic price, and youth that has been educated in the public universities or private universities and were looking for employment in the field of IT. Right now, we are facing some different challenges. As I mentioned, there are now plenty of foreign direct investors who have more or less exhausted the existing resources in the market. So now the focus of the government is to close the gap between the how many people are getting into this industry each year from the university system, and how can we increase the resources that can join the workforce in the field of software development, even though they might not be, let's say, having a degree in computer science. For this, there's a lot of support, not only from the government, but also from other development funds. I can mention, for example, American Albanian Development Fund that is supporting a lot of academies that are giving a real contribution into reskilling of the workforce. You mentioned earlier vocational education, but now I think, especially for this field, is really crucial that you have people who have a certain maturity and a certain education level, and then they are able to become coders from zero to a Java developer in 6 months using these programs that are offered now by training software development academies. From this perspective, another great initiative, I would say, is that actually the government is supporting a lot of initiatives. Yeah, this can be through central government, but also local. So I can say, for example, with investment again of Albanian American Development Fund, but also the municipality of Tirana, development of Tumo Center, which is something that in 2030, we have already now some young teenagers that are getting excited and interested about yeah, anything that has to do with the digital environment, and that they will be then who the next generation that is going to be for us in this case our future employees, right? So I think this action is something concrete that helps to bridge the gap between what the market is currently able to produce and how can we actually leverage all the other resources that are still to be considered to join this industry. I think this is something very simple, but yeah, at times the government is not expected to do really everything. Even one small thing can have a big impact. On the other hand, I mentioned 5 years ago, we were talking about deregulation and digitalization of some of the services, but a month ago, actually in Albania, 100% of the services are only available online. So it has also in parallel developed on itself. And the presence of a developed industry, such as the presence of our company here, but also other companies that are contributing every day to build this market, this means that there's also a possibility to build the knowledge and the know-how to be able also to support the development of everything that has to do with the digital economy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I really like that you talk about, I mean, two things. First, what I really like the way you think is that because of your experience, you are easily making the parallel between the policy and the operational reality on the market. So I think this is fundamental because we see a lot on international development. Sometimes I was talking about a gap between the policy making and then the operational thing. Even if there are like a lot of studies to assess what are the needs, etc. At the end, it's only when you manage a business that you see the impact on jobs, on employment, on growth, etc. So that's I really like.